Yo, what's up, guys? So today we're gonna be doing my top 10 red spells for Commander. These are my picks. Obviously, like other people have different orientation of cards, different top 10 in general. But this is like a mixture of like things I like plus things I like that are also, pretty strong. I When I play Commander, it's more of a casual thing, but we do, as things have progressed with Wizards printing cards and the kind of build up in power over the past couple of years, decks have kind of just gotten faster and stronger as a result. So even though I play mostly casual, I don't really play CEDH. A lot of the cards are pretty powerful cards, so um, you'll see that in the list. The order is not specific, it's just the top 10. Some of them are where I would put them on the top 10, but like overall, like I don't really have a specific line that these would go in terms of power to like things I like. So overall, like this is just the top 10 red spells that like I put in my decks. I would honestly say most of these cards I would put in any single red deck. Like there's no real like um I don't know, like real part of this that wouldn't go in any red deck that I build. Um but yeah, overall, like these are just my top 10 picks. In the comments, let me know what you would pick as your top 10 red spells. I'm going to be doing one for each of the colors. We're going to do green next, then over the course of like the next three, it'll be blue, white, and black. Not in that specific order. I just know that green is the next one that I'm going with. But before we get into it, I'd like to ask you guys to go down there and hit that red subscribe button. Shows your support. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs before the end of the year. I do think we can do it if we just keep chugging along. Also, like the video, it shows that that you enjoyed the video, and leave comments. Tell me like what you think of the video, your top 10 red spells in Commander. But without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. All right, guys, to start the list off at number 10, we have War's Toll. The cards will be right here, probably covering my finger at this point. War's Toll is a 4 mana enchantment in red that says whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls. If a creature an opponent controls attacks, all creatures that opponent controls attack if able. With all these cards, I'm going to be going over some pros and cons, my opinion, obviously. But some pros for War's Toll: it's good for making sure that your opponents don't have any mana up on your turn. Being that they have to, when they tap a land, tap all of their lands in conjunction. It's good for forcing out Pillow Fort players who like to build up like creatures and enchantments and stuff like that. Forces them to go all out when they do attack, so they can't just attack with a big guy, have like all their chump blockers chilling in the background. And then also it slows the game down a bit. I've played with it a few times. I do think that it does slow the game down a bit in terms of people not wanting to commit monster or creatures to attack, as well as people using their mana to cast stuff on their turn. Some cons though: people aren't going to like you for playing the card. It is not a fun card to play against. It's very I would consider it like probably at the bottom tier of stall in terms of something that kind of slows the game down a bit, because people have to choose between casting spells on their turn to further their own board state versus casting spells on their opponent's turn to stop them from advancing their board state. So it does kind of slow the game, or it does kind of slow the game down a bit. People don't really like that. And then also, blue players will most likely just hold their mana to cast cards on your turn. That's just the name of the game for blue. So overall, it's a good card. Probably one of the only cards on the list I don't think is an auto include. I do think it's a very good card that people should consider running in their red decks, though. But yeah, that's number 10. All right, guys, now onto our number 9 slot. We have Curse of Opulence. This is a 1 mana enchantment or a curse. Says enchant player, whenever enchanted player is attacked, create a colorless artifact token named Gold. It has sack this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Each opponent attacking that player does the same. So, some pros with this. Good mana, a good 1 mana drop that generates you treasure. This was, I'm pretty sure this was treasure before treasure was given the name treasure. Because they do the same thing. This one's just called gold. It encourages the table to attack the threat that you choose as well. That's another pro. It kind of inadvertently kind of encourages people to attack somebody that you think is a threat. Being able to drop this early game as well is just good advantage for you and for other players. That's one of the cons, though, is that it gives other players mana advantage, which you don't necessarily want, but it kind of comes at the like a good price, though, considering that people aren't attacking you, they're attacking them. Only issue there is that the enchanted player will most likely focus you down. Unfortunately, that's just how curses go. Most of those cards, I think there's a blue one and a white one that came out at the same time. It was the 2017 Commander decks. But that's just the name of the game. You're gonna get focused down by the player. They don't like, as soon as you're dead, that enchantment goes. So that's just the name of the game. But that's my number 9 slot, guys. All right, guys. For number 8, we have Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting is a 1 mana draw spell at sorcery speed. It says draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and it has flashback for 2 in a red. Overall, I think this card is pretty good. I think it might be a little overutilized. I don't think it's underutilized in the slightest. People love Faithless Looting. It's a good draw card in red. It's hard to come by. Or a good card draw in red is hard to come by. Sorry, read that weird. Has flashback for your spell slinging playstyles, which is always nice. I have it in my cast deck, I believe, which is black, blue, and red. Having the ability to flashback a card that you can just play from your graveyard with cast is always nice. It's 1 mana. That's the last pro. It's 1 mana to basically go -1 in hand. That's one of the cons, is that it is -1 in hand advantage. But if you're playing those spell slinging style decks, you can, discard a card that you would want to play from grave to begin with, to gain the ability to get your lands up if you're, kind of mana screwed. Another con is, and this would just change the card entirely, is that I think that it would be better as an instant. Sorcerer speed really holds this card back. Not being able to cast it in your opponent's end step is kind of poopy, but it's whatever. That's just what the card is. I think it'd be a little too strong if it had instant speed, but I do count that as a con for the card. But yeah, that is my number 8 slot, you guys. For my number 7 slot, we have the first creature to end up on the list. We have Etali, Primal Storm. A little bit of an older card. He originated from Rivals of Ixalan. I believe it's Rivals. He is a 6 mana, 4 colorless, 2 red, legendary creature Elder Dinosaur with 6 power, 6 toughness. That says whenever Etali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So obviously this guy is a huge bomb. His ability is amazing. The fact that he can be your commander is amazing. Just overall a good card in general. Being in red also gives you access to haste enablers for him, so you can drop him and immediately attack with him to get as much advantage off him as possible. Got only 1 con for him. 6 mana is a lot to cast in red. Actually, I have a couple cons. 6 mana is a lot to cast in red. The only perk to that is that we do have cards that kind of circumvent it, like Mana Geyser and Jeska's Will, where you can just get like a bunch of mana pretty early on in game. The other con is people tend to pop Etali off the field as soon as it hits the board. They don't like Etali. They don't like people casting their spells, as well as losing access to spells off the top of their library. So that is Etali Primal Storm. He is my number 7. So we're gonna hop right into number 6, guys. So number 6 is an old classic. We have the Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is a 1 mana red instant. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to any target. I think that this card is just an auto include in every single red deck. There's no cons for this card. It is literally a 1 mana pop spell for cards, good creatures like I think Dranith Magistrate dies to it, which is nice. People have been complaining about that for a while. It kills creatures, combo pieces. Most combo pieces tend to be 3 toughness or less, so this is a good card to include in decks that you would want to be able to pop stuff like that. Can also finish games. I've definitely finished my fair share of games by dealing the last 3 damage to somebody that needed to be. You can't complain about a 1 mana kill spell either. It's just this is a card that I would consider an auto include in any deck that runs red, not just red decks. If you've got red in your color scheme, you're running a Lightning Bolt. That card is fantastic. And that is why it is at my number 6 slot. At number 5, we're keeping up the theme of 1 mana spells. We have Gamble. Gamble is a 1 mana sorcery that says search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and then discard a card at random. Shuffle your library afterwards. So some pros for Gamble is that it is one of the very few searchers in red. Off the top of my head, I can only think of Imperial Recruiter as like a decent searcher. You can't go wrong with 1 mana, dude. 1 mana and a dream, dude. Can play this card right on turn 1. Amazing. Plus, it's a card you wouldn't mind seeing later in game as well. There are some 1 mana drop or 1 mana cards that you want to see early on that you would want to see later on. So I think that this one kind of falls in that nice 6 slot of you wouldn't mind seeing it on turn 3 or 4. So, but cons, you do have to randomly discard a card from your hand, which means you could lose the card you picked up with Gamble. But I think it's worth it for 1 mana, as well as you could, if you're afraid of that, you could pick up something with Flashback, something that you know you can get back from the grave. So overall, I think it's a fantastic card, and that is my number 5 slot. All right, we're at number 4, and number 4 shouldn't surprise anybody. It's Chaos Warp. Chaos Warp is probably one of I would consider in the top 5 of like power-wise of red spells for red, like mono red specifically. Obviously, if you have access to red and other colors, you're gonna pick other cards up that do this but better. But Chaos Warp in mono red is very strong. It's good removal in red, and it can remove any permanent, which is very nice. It's a 3 mana instant for 2 colorless and a red that says the owner of target permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then reveals the top card of his or her library. If it's a permanent card, he or she puts it onto the battlefield. So it can get rid of literally anything. You can get rid of that strip mine. I mean, unfortunately, people will just use the strip mine. That's kind of a bad example. You can use it to get rid of cards like Bolas' Citadel, stuff that combo pieces that you don't want to see. It's low in mana cost, which is really nice. 3 mana is nothing, especially when you have cards like Jeska's Will and Mana Geyser that you can just get a bunch of mana with, and then just be like, hey, I'm gonna use this Chaos Warp as well. Some cons though, it is a bit of a double-edged sword. Could lead the target player to getting a land, which is the biggest upside. I mean, biggest upside is that they hit an instant or sorcery, but as far as permanents, land is the thing that you want them to get. But they could also just get a better creature or a better combo piece off of what you got rid of, which never feels good, man. But yeah, that is my number 4 slot. All right, guys, for my number 3 slot, we have Blasphemous Act, probably one of the stronger cards that came out of Innistrad. It is a 9 mana, technically, 8 colorless, 1 red sorcery that says Blasphemous Act costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. So Blasphemous Act is probably one of the stronger mono red board wipes. I call it board wipe. Basically takes out anything that doesn't have any boosts on it. I don't think there's too many creatures that are above 13 toughness. In Magic, there are a few, obviously, like some of the Eldrazi's, I believe. I think Maybe not actually, but it's essentially a board wipe for 1 mana. You're not casting this unless you're casting it for the 1 red. Let's be honest. Um, I think it's an auto include in red decks or any deck that runs red. This is just a fantastic board wipe. That if you have ways to nullify damage to your own creatures, you can get around your own creatures getting popped, which is nice. But that goes into the cons as well. It can really mess up your board if you cannot, or if you use it at the wrong time, or you know are just shotgunning it because you know you can mess up another person's plans. You really need to think about this one. It also can't get rid of big creatures unless you have an additional damage dealing spell in your hand, something like a lightning bolt, which for 2 mana, being able to not only board wipe essentially and then be able to pop something big with the additional lightning bolt is very nice. But I just think this is a fantastic board wipe in red. I think it's one of the better board wipes. I'm not one to run board wipes these days in my decks. I think it's I would prefer to play 2 extra games of Magic than sit down and play 1 4-hour game that ends up getting like 2 Cyclonic Rifts, 3 board wipes throughout the game. I kind of steer away from board wipes nowadays. I obviously have my caveats to that. Like I'll run some like board wipes and like Earl, like Winds of Wrath, I think it's called, that doesn't destroy creatures that are enchanted, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look it up. But I'll run cards like that, but I'm not gonna run. I took out Cyclonic Rift out of my blue deck that it was in. I've taken out Wrath of Gods and stuff like that. Like I just don't run them anymore. I don't find them fun. But that is at my number 3 slot. At the basically the bottom of the number 3 to 2 to 1 totem pole. I think it is an auto include. I think all 3 of these cards are auto includes in red, like most of the cards on this list. But this one is like at the tippy top with these other 2. All right, guys, at number 2, you knew he was going to be on this list. He is the only other creature on the list. It is Dockside Extortionist. Dockside Extortionist is a 2-mana 1/2 goblin pirate that says when he enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. He is by far and away probably one of the strongest mono red creatures that has come out in the last 4 years. He came out in 2019 in the 2019 Commander Precons. He came out in the Savine, I believe it was Savine Precon. He is absolutely busted strong. In the right hands, in the right deck, in the right circumstances. I do not think that he is overall just a busted card out the gate. He has a strong ability, but you really have to be able to capitalize on it. A lot of people have asked for him to be banned. I don't see it happening anytime soon. The Commander Advisory Board has also stated that they probably will not ban it unless they see it in more like taking off in a casual sense, more so than just the CEDH sense. Because at the the bottom of the discussion, Commander is a casual format, so they are more so creating rules for the casual player, not the CEDH player, because there is no organized tournament play for Commander currently. But Dockside is an auto include any red deck. Just from power alone, he is very strong. Has the potential to end games when dropped on the field. Is a major advantage for you at 2 mana, even if you're just getting like 3 or 4 treasure tokens off of him. He is a major advantage. Some cons though, you're gonna be hated once he hits the field. People do not like this card, even in a casual sense, even in casual play. People are not gonna like when you play this card. He is that strong. People do not like this card. People think it's very cheap. People think it is borderline like a mistake of a card that they've printed. Another con, he is a little too expensive at the time of recording this video. I think he's about $40 to $50, somewhere in that range. Probably not going anywhere from that range either anytime soon unless he sees another reprint, which I doubt we'll see, considering he was reprinted in Modern Horizons, I believe. No, not Modern Horizons. Double Masters. He was printed in Double Masters 2022. So I don't see him getting a reprint anytime soon. But he is a very strong mono red card that I think that everybody should be running. you can get your hands on it, if you already have your hands on it, throw it in any deck that you think will go up against somebody who's playing a lot of enchantments or you know, artifacts. So that is my number 2 slot. Nobody was surprised that he was going to be on this list. Number 1 is also not a surprise, but we're going to get right into it. All right, guys, at number 1, we have probably the strongest mono red spell to probably ever grace Commander. It is Jeska's Will. It is a 3 mana, 2 colorless, 1 red sorcery that says choose one. If you control a commander, as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Both modes are add 1 red mana for each card in target opponent's hand, or second mode, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. This is an amazing spell for red. Not only does it let you get access to cards off the top of your library to give you more advantage with the mana that you are getting, you can choose any person and just gain red mana equal to the number of cards in their hand. Playing against a blue player, guess what? You're gonna have like 15 mana. Playing against I don't know, like playing against white, probably gonna have a few mana, considering that all their spells are super expensive, so they're not casting anytime soon. Also, they have cards like what is it? Esper Sentinel. That's one that's like whenever somebody casts their first non-creature spell, they may pay 1. If they don't, you get to draw a card, right? I believe that's what it does. This card gives instant advantage as soon as it hits the board. Is cheap and can generate a lot of mana. 3 mana is not a lot to spend when you're getting 7 to 8 in return. If you have a commander, you can use both of them, which is really nice because then you can get access to cards off the top of the library. Some cons, though. It is a sorcery, so it's a bit slow. I feel like this card would be much stronger if it was at instant speed. And it's a bit expensive. I think this card is about $25 right now, which is pretty expensive. It was printed in the Commander Legends set, I believe. So kind of recent. It was also reprinted in the Commander Legends Baldur's Gate as well. So we've had access to it for a bit, but it's a very good card. I do think this is an auto include in red as well, just as a precaution. Some cards that are similar, but not really to the same extent, that I would include in like my honorable mentions are cards like Mana Geyser and probably some creatures. The Krenkos, both of them are very good. Generation on tokens is nice. I don't think they fall in the same category though, but that's my top 10, guys. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your top 10 in red. We're going to be doing green next. Then we'll do the other 3 colors, and then we'll probably branch off from there, make some like additional top 10s. I know my last one was top 10 commanders that released last year. We'll probably have another one next year about this year's commanders. Unfortunately, that's all I got for you guys. So please subscribe. We are trying to hit 1,000 subs. I'm gonna keep saying it until we hit it. So might as well go down there and hit that subscribe button, bro. Yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.